All right, so on this page, we are looking at this function y equals x squared. Can you tell me what y equals x squared looks like? Does anybody remember? Parabola. Yeah, and in fact, it is our parent function for a parabola. If I were to graph this whole graph, it would be this, it's got its vertex at 0, 0, and it just sort of curves around, right? Does that ring a bell from your past days? Okay. So if I want to find the value of any point on this graph, like for instance, if I wanted to find the value of y at x equals 2, all I need to do is plug that in and take 2 squared and I get 4. Okay? Good? Makes sense? And I can do that for any value. In fact, I'm going to jump down a little bit because I don't have my calculator on me, but what's the value of y when x is 3? 9, great. What's the value of y when x is 4? Super, you guys are amazing. Value of y when x is 5? Okay, now I need your help a little bit. We might need some calculators. How about when it's 2.1? 4.41? Everybody agree? Anybody agree? You got 4 point for 2.1, yeah. 2.1 squared. 4.41, great. Okay. And then 2.01 squared. 4.0401? Okay, great. And I might have to write real small. I sort of feel like I'm seeing a pattern here. Remember when we were doing our limits? We started to see patterns as things were getting closer and closer and closer to a value. I'm going to guess, and tell me if I'm wrong. Is this one 4.004001? Yep. Good, good. I didn't need to plug it in. And then if I were to, again, guess on this next one, I bet it's 4.00040001. Sound good? Okay, I just started to see the pattern that was going on so I could figure out those values. Okay, now, I want to figure out the change in x. So the change in x is the difference between the value that I'm looking at and the first value, which is at 2. So if I want to figure out the change in x, it's the value that I'm looking at minus the first value, 2. So this one's 2 minus 2, and that's 0. Okay? But this next one is the change in the value that I'm looking at minus the first value, and what's that one? 0.0001. Great. What's this next one? 0.001. What's this next one? 0.01. And our next one? 0.1. And our next one? 1. And next? And next? Great. Okay. Now, I need to find the slopes of all of these things. My change in y over my change in x. Okay, remember my slope is my change in y over my change in x. So when I think of this value here as a point, that is 2, 4. Good? It's my first point. This one is hard to fit on here, 2.0001, comma, 4.00040001. Kind of an ugly point. I need to find the slope between those two. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then I want to do the same for the next one here. I want to find the slope between I'm always going back to this original guy here. That's the one that I'm finding the slopes between. So my next one I want to find is the slope between 2.001 and 4.004001 and 24. And that's what I'm going to have you guys kind of work on now. In fact, I'm going to have you, let's see, I'll just go around the room. Let's have on this first row, I want you to find the slope between 0.1 and 0.2, and let's go 0.1 and 0.8. Okay, that's what you guys have to do, 0.1 and 0.2, 1 and 0.8. So 0.2, find those slopes. And this row, I want you to find the slopes between 0.1 and 0.3 and 0.1 and 0.7. Okay, 0.1 and 0.3, 0.1 and 0.7. And then this row, let's have you guys do the slope between 0.1 and 0.4. And let's have you do 0.1 and 0.8. Okay, so we'll just get a couple people doing the same thing. Let's have this row do 0.1 and 0.5. I want you to find the slope between 0.1 and 0.5, and I also want you to find the slope between 0.1 and 0.7. So 0.1 and 0.5, 0.1 and 0.7. And then Johnny's row, 0.1 and 0.6, and 0.1 and 0.3. Find the slopes for each of those, 0.1 and 0.6, 0.1 and 0.3. And then the last row, let's have you do 0.1 and 0.5, and 0.1 and 0.7. 0.1 and 0.5, 0.1 and 0.7. So again, all you're doing is just finding the slopes between the 2 points that I had, and then once we find slopes, we're going to get together and we're going to fill them all in. We'll share the work so that we're all not all having to do everything because it's too tiring. Okay, these need to be stable, and it goes. It goes up to 5.5. I think it's marked as and then just take that and put a staple kind of up in the top corner. Don't go too crazy down so they have windows. Okay, thank you. All right, so all about slopes, this is what we're doing, all about slopes in this chapter, working on finding slopes, figuring that out. I'd like to get some sharing of some values when people get a chance. Well, if I try to find the slope between 0.1 and 0.1, it's going to be undefined. It's actually going to be 0 over 0, which if we did limits, remember, raised a red flag. That is something that I am not able to find. I lost my red. Okay, raising my red flag.